All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight or today, wherever you are in the world. You are on the Sacred Communities Inspire, Innovate, Ignite Conversations That Count. This is part of our Women's Empowerment Program. And this is intended for you to get inspired by expert panelists who share innovative self-empowerment tips that will enrich your life. Each intimate group of panelists have been hand-chosen for specific topics to ignite deep conversations amongst guests who join live. So showing up live is the very best way to not only learn from the experts, but also engage in the discussion and get a lot of your questions answered. So today we are going to be talking about the trauma responses. And when we are up against a stressful or dangerous situation, our body and brain respond. This occurs unconsciously and automatically. And the following are what the responses are and what actions trigger those responses. So the first is fight. That's a perceived aggressive threat. Flight, which is danger is occurring or about to occur. Freeze is unable to move in the face of danger. Fawn is pleasing someone to avoid conflict. So we're going to have a conversation around how our responses can be activated in the stressful world that we live in today, and how we can shift from automatic pilot to having more presence in our lives and be in charge of our responses. So today we have beautiful panelists who have been hand-chosen. And up first is Jackie Simmons. Hi, Jackie. And Jackie helps coaches and healers create and sustain radical self-confidence and certainty in the outcomes their clients get from working with them. So she is a multi-certified expert in mindset, manifestation, energetic healing, and transformation, and is the creator of the Conscious Transformational Coaching Program, where she certifies coaches and healers in trauma resolution techniques. Jackie is a TEDx speaker, multiple international best-selling author, and Jackie believes that coaches and healers are like the teachers and preachers. You make the biggest difference in the world, and you deserve an income that reflects that impact. And we also have Sue Rummick here, and Sue is one of our hosts at the Sacred Community. And Sue helps highly sensitive professionals who suffer with empathetic sensitivities, sensory overwhelm, and spiritual confusion to rewrite how they negotiate the worlds in which they live so they can take back the driver's seat and begin to love the power they have to make their lives their own. Sue has been a professional life skills coach for over 16 years. She is a lifelong channeler of healing messages for mankind, author of 5 channeled spiritual books and multiple handbooks and DIY manuals for managing personal and professional overwhelm. Sue's primary coaching focus is teaching the brain science that makes sense of empath overwhelm as it applies to and partners with the skills it takes to gently take back control of your life. She has designed Empath Shielding Basics, her unique 6-step process that changes lives using somatic brain retraining techniques. And our other 2 beautiful panelists were not able to be with us this evening, and we wish them all the best. And my name is Josette Diaz. I transform women's lives through self-mastery. I help women who struggle with people-pleasing, saying yes when they want to say no, and also the women that sabotage their efforts because they see their results as not good enough. And the pain of these habits and behaviors leave them experiencing life as if there is a veneer between themselves and reality. Women who go through my system of self-mastery learn how it feels to experience their rhythm within and find ease in their daily life. I'm a certified Reiki master teacher and a certified master NLP practitioner, trainer, and timeline therapy practitioner. and I've practiced self-mastery for over 30 plus years. So let's get started. And thank you so much for being here with us, ladies. And I'm so excited to have such a beautiful combination of experts that we get to talk to tonight. So I'd like to just start off by asking one question. Many of the reactions to trauma are connected to one another. So for example, a flashback, it might make you feel out of control and then therefore produce like anxiety and fear. So my question, this is part one, what are some of the other triggers that can come up for people? And who would like to start? Okay, Sue, go right ahead, please.
There's so many different triggers. It depends on the person. If that person happens to be a highly sensitive person or an empath, another name for a highly sensitive person, it means that they've got an extra DNA strand in each of the neuron bundles in the frontal cortex, which basically looks out into the environment, picks up on other people's energetic behaviors. It's electrical, and that can trigger all kinds of things. So a sight, just a visual, a red door or a blue door can trigger some part of a memory that had a trauma. The door had nothing to do with the trauma itself. It's something they saw as they moved it. So a visual, a smell, a texture, a taste. So it doesn't have to be a traumatic experience that will trigger a flashback or a traumatic PTSD type of response. It could be something in the environment that triggers back to the trauma itself or the memory of the trauma. That's the shortest answer I can give you.
That's a great answer. And I like that you brought up that it could just be a red door. It's not something that necessarily has to be traumatic that's happening in the moment. So,
well, one of the things that I've seen, I mean, I watch a lot of stuff, I read a lot of stuff because I like to keep myself informed. And trauma is such a huge topic right now because it's in every layer of society and it doesn't necessarily have to be huge trauma. But one of the things that I watched recently suggested that on the way to an accident that was about to happen, a person saw a blue bicycle, a red door, a kid in a pram. And when it depends on the circumstances. If they see one of those things, their flashback to the accident is triggered. It isn't the accident itself. It's the trigger. So sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's fine. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Jackie, would you like to answer the same question?
Sure. And Sue, that was a very thorough answer. I'm like, okay, you covered all 5 senses because certainly sensory input is a key element for many people. And yet the client I wrote about in the article, 50 years in an invisible jail, was triggered by absolutely nothing. Back to a car accident, speaking of that example, that he had experienced when he was 8 years old. He was just walking across his front porch and taken, totally incapable of being in the moment at all, and pulled back until we resolved that. And he gave me permission to write about it because you cannot protect, if you have had a traumatic experience, there is not a way to protect yourself from triggers. There is only the way of dialing down the triggers, and there are multiple ways to do that, which I know we're going to get to because that's what Sue is known for, and so am I. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this. So, Sue, I'm excited about this.
So what I hear both of you saying is that even though you can't really predict the triggers that are going to occur around you in daily life, then that leads me to ask, isn't that really just about learning tools and how you respond to those triggers that happen?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
And it's a yes and no, because yes, there are tools that can help you self-soothe, that can help you not shred other people, like my client who was in a boardroom and it would get dark and stormy. And if the air got close in the room, he would all of a sudden start shredding his team. He had been trapped in a cave as a veteran, as a military, and where if he took a breath, he was going to die. And he didn't realize he had carried that into his civilian life until his whole business started falling apart. Could I have taught him tools that he could have activated once he was triggered? Hell no, because once you're triggered, you're triggered. Parts of the brain actually shut down when you're triggered. You don't have blood flow to the higher functioning, like your memory. All you have is the reaction at that moment. But what we can do is we can dial down the intensity of a trigger. We can resolve the actual event. We can allow for it to be completed so it's no longer brought forward, and it can be part of your history without being an active piece of your story.
Okay. So is there a difference between the severity of what the trauma is, or is all trauma just trauma?
I believe all trauma is trauma, and I believe we don't get out of childhood without it. Right. I believe that being made to sit still when we're 3 years old, when sitting still is not the natural state of a 3-year-old, for some people that will leave a lingering memory and a resistance to being given direction. Mm-hmm. And trust me, it shows up in offices all the time. Rational people react when told what to do, and they don't even know why they're reacting. And that's a trauma trigger. That's just a traumatic response. Now, are they totally hijacked by their amygdala? I mean, do they have total shutdown? No, but they're uncomfortable and they're reactive and they're grumpy and they have all of these other symptoms and signs. Okay. So we all are traumatized. There's nobody I've ever met that wasn't.
I agree completely with Jackie. There is nobody that I've ever met, including myself, who hasn't been traumatized by some really simple things. And what Jackie is saying is very true. Once the trigger starts and the trauma memory has been activated, we're actually moving into a new memory. We create, every time we're reactive that way, we're actually creating a new story around the old story. And that's the story we go back to the next time we're triggered. And as Jackie said, and I agree with her 100%, you have to move through the trauma in stages, and there are somatic stages as well. So there's a felt sense, there's an intellectual sense, there's a memory stage. That fight, flight, freeze, and fawn are very important to recognize. So sometimes people will have a consistent response. So there's always going to be the fighter. Because they have specific skills and they can manage the fear and the resistance themselves to put themselves into fight rather than flight or freeze. For somebody who naturally goes into freeze, those people perhaps could be actually more traumatized by their memory responses than some other people who are triggered. And that's because when you come up out of freeze, you actually go back through the whole trauma. You went down through it. And you were in where am I? What's happening? Where's my safety? And then it's like, okay, how am I gonna get out of this? You see, you can't get out of it. You go into that fear stage, then you go into the freeze, and you're out of it for however long you're out of it. Now, the problem with a lot of people is that when they come back out of it, they go back up through the same levels, but backwards. So they go through the extreme fear, the crying, the sense that freeze is going to happen again. And if they can be guided by a coach, a therapist, a counselor, to understand this is a normal progression. It's what the brain does, because you have to go back through those stages in order to make sense of them and find a non-fearful way out of them. So allowing yourself to shake, to cry a little bit, and then to move up to the next stage, which is reorienting yourself. Where is my safety in all of this? And talking through, yeah, well, this actually is happening, but I've got a safer part in my own body that I can relate to. And now I can bring that sense of safety into the part that's falling apart. So, and then moving back up into, okay, where is my exit? How can I get out of here? And then following yourself through the exit. So now you've created a safe passage through that old trauma. When it shows up again the next time, it's going to be a lot easier. It doesn't go away in one go. And Jackie knows this so well. Oh, wait, she's going to say something. Unmute. Go ahead, unmute.
All right. Because of this is a common thing.
Yeah.
Every process has its own peculiarities.
Yes.
And some memories can absolutely be permanently and completely resolved in one go. And that's what we've discovered. Some have layers, as you were talking about, and you're describing the layers of the reaction. And for us, it's the layers of nuance of the emotion, the layers of meaning that have been put around an event. And sometimes if there are multiple layers, there are going to be multiple resolutions that make it permanently. Now it's just history. And so when you said it, I know it can't be done in one go. Well, actually, no, I don't know. I know the opposite, that sometimes it can be done in one go.
I may have jumped to a conclusion on that one. There are certain traumas that I've worked through with people where it was like, oh yeah, I get it completely. And now it doesn't come back again. But they have to be prepared that it might come back in a slightly different way. And, but you're right. There are some that can be gotten gone in one go, and others that have nuances that you have to work through. So you and I are in complete agreement on this. This is so much fun, Jackie.
It is a lot of fun, Sue. So thank you. Good. Yes, Josette.
You just mentioned that they apply meaning to the reaction, correct? Is that what I heard you say?
There's two places that meaning is applied. The first is in the original event. I believe that when something happens that's too confining, too confusing, too intense, or heaven forbid, too painful, maybe just happening too fast, for us to stay emotionally present for it, that this leaves behind a trauma signature, what we call mental and emotional trash. And so there's the meaning around that. Oh, I'm not brave enough to stand up for myself. Could be a meaning, a label. It's actually a label that someone assigns to themselves or to the event. And the simplest explanation is how a baby's brain builds out information and meanings. I call it the book of dog. And the short version, an infant crawling around comes across something warm and furry, 4 legs, bad breath, and somebody says dog. So the baby's brain starts building out a book of dog that includes warm, furry, bad breath. And the baby uses all of its senses, as Sue was talking about. It uses all of its senses to build out this relationship. I used to have a daycare, and one of my girls she's just adored my dog, Bear. Bear is a basset hound. He'd lay around. And she just loved to crawl on him. And he was, just very like, yeah, I love you too. One Monday she came in and Bear came into the room and she screamed and leaped up into my arms and could not be consoled until he was out of the room. When her parents picked her up, I said, hey, anything unusual happen this weekend? And they're like, no, we went to our friend's house. And I said, well, did they have a dog? And they went, oh, because their dog scared her. He just sudden noises, whatever. And that trauma erased her book of dogs are wonderful and put in a new meaning of dogs are dangerous. So then every dog she saw came across this meaning in her brain of dogs are dangerous. Until we could develop some discernment for her, she got used to Bear again. And then the meaning became some dogs are dangerous, which, as unfortunate as it is actually a healthy meaning, because some dogs are dangerous. But her trauma at an early age, and I believe the earlier the age, the more significant that meaning becomes. And her sense of safety was gone.
And the meaning is different than story.
Right. The meaning is different than the event. The meaning is different than story. The meaning is unintentionally given to children by their parents, mixed meanings, mixed messages. And so what we've come to discover, both with the conscious transformational work to clean all of that trash up, and with what we're working with the teen suicide prevention work, that's a pure prevention program, is that the brain is totally malleable. We can totally rewrite. We can write over. There are so many different ways to change the responsiveness in the body, because I'm also somatic intuitive is the basis of our training program. bringing your connection back to your intuition, bringing your connection back to your body. And this is so needed right now because we are living in a society where people are living from their neck up, thinking that their brain is everything. And yet all of their emotion, all of the meaning of life is not stored in the brain. It's stored in the body.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. That's interesting, Jackie, because part of the program that I put together for people, it starts off as a 6-step program that puts them in touch with the felt sense of the trauma. And it puts them in touch with the electrical connections they have around their body. So they're sensing pushback and resistance and everything else. One of the most important parts of the work that we do together over the first 6 sessions is creating what I call, it's so simple, and it's been called this by many different practitioners in different ways. I call it a body talk manual, where they take the felt sense, whatever it is they're feeling in their gut, in their throat, in their shoulders, in their head, and put them, like you said, put a meaning to it. What does it actually represent? Is it anxiety? Is it fear? Is it pain of some kind? Is it physical? Is it emotional? And they begin to associate physical sensation with a warning about a trauma that has happened in the past. And that trauma trigger is about to get triggered. So they kind of have this little bit of an early warning signal that lets them know the trauma trigger might get triggered. And then we go into a process to turn it down, to dial down the response, which is what you were talking about as well. It sounds as if we have very similar practices. Do we just call them different things?
Yeah, well, and there's a place where when we are willing to accept that trauma can be resolved, that belief system is the opposite of what's in the media, where the media believes that you're going to have to learn how to deal with this for the rest of your life. And I am like, oh, hell no.
No.
Oh, no, you do not have to learn how to deal with this. You do not need another tool. They're all useful. They're all good. They all help your brain calm down from beta to alpha, from the busy brain into the calm space where you can hear your intuition better. And I'm all in favor of that. The reality of it, though, is the speed at which trauma can be resolved is the speed of your other than conscious mind. It can be completely quick and painless. Our motto in my company is no one gets re-traumatized on our watch. No one has to ever remember or ever speak about what's in a bag of trash, what their past is inside a session, because I believe that's very re-triggering. So we don't do that. We don't allow that in our sessions, because why? Why would you revisit something that you know is going to be uncomfortable, which literally wraps more material around that part of your brain and makes you more triggerable the next time? It makes no sense to me.
And actually, it's actually beginning to make sense to trauma scientists as well. They're beginning to recognize that taking the person back into the trauma re-triggers them and just keeps re-triggering. So they might make some small gains, but in the long run, they just keep getting re-triggered and taken back where they've got new memories. So it gets further deeply embedded.
You continue to be placed in reset.
Yes.
Right. So let's move on to another question. I'd like to ask you, what are some of the subtle ways that trauma reaction plays in a person's everyday life? Like an example of fawning. I think this one's kind of fascinating because so often you have these different behaviors that are truly about this fawning response, and you may not even have any awareness of it or that you're even in a trauma response. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about that, both of you. Would you like to talk, Sue?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask you.
I jumped the gun.
You're fine.
Thank you. I would say right now, and my practice keeps changing. It's kind of cyclical. But right now, a lot of the people that are coming to me are women who are going through divorce. And what better place to recognize that you're a people pleaser, especially if you've been married to a controller, an abuser, an addictive personality, or a narcissist. And so a lot of the women who come to me, the first thing they do is, I'm so sick of pleasing this person at my own detriment. I'm so sick of doing what they want just to keep them happy. So yeah, trauma, not only do they have the trauma of the experience of living with the person or the memories of having been traumatized in the first place, but they also have the fear of being put back into a traumatizing situation. So they will say or do whatever it takes to keep their safe space around them. And they feel as if they are worthless. They feel as if they have no identity at all. They're a dish rag or a doormat, and that they will never be able to get their identity back. And creating that new identity is a session by session event. And like Jackie said, it isn't a matter of going into old stories. It's a matter of where are you today and what do you need most today? And that's how we move forward with it. So the people pleaser part of it is huge, because not only do we have the adult people pleasers, they show up in people's homes. They show up in work situations. I'm afraid to say no to my manager, so I'm going to do everything I can so that I get that next promotion. I get away from this manager. It doesn't always work that way because they keep people pleasers around and they make them happy. Like, I'm not going to give up my people pleaser. Why would I be so stupid to do that? It happens in families with small children who are basically trained by their parents that if they don't do what the parent wants them to do, they will be unloved. And what child wants to go through life unloved, untouched, unhugged, unappreciated, unrecognized? So that's where people pleasing really begins. Mm-hmm. And at least that's been my experience, that a people pleaser begins in childhood, unless somewhere in their mid-teen years, they've been forced into a position, possibly by their teen group, possibly by their teachers or their religious associations, where they've had to toe the line if they want to be accepted into a community. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs says people need community. People are healthiest, happiest, and feel safest when they are in community. People pleasers are huge community people. They need community, so they will do what it takes. And it's visceral. If they are going against their people-pleasing nature, they feel very unsafe. They feel very exposed. So right. They will unintentionally, intentionally be inauthentic, which doesn't go along with their basic personality. So they're in conflict with themselves in order to not be in conflict with the people around them.
Well, Nail, would you agree that people pleasers have a tendency to have so many different built-in behaviors that keep them safe?
Well, yes, definitely, because they need to be kept safe at all times. Again, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What do you need in order to be safe and secure in your life? It's right up there at the top. If you're not safe and secure, you can't go on and do anything else in your life. You can't find love. You can't find community. You can't find the work that pleases you. But right. People pleasers get stuck in that cycle, that cycle, and they have it takes a little bit of work. But if they're like Jackie said, if they're motivated enough to want to give themselves permission to break an old pattern, an old behavior, then they can. And I'm sure Jackie has a process.
Yeah, well, and like you do, and I'm just going to challenge some language, okay?
Please go right ahead.
Hearing language that in my world is a meaning that doesn't need to be there for people. It's not built in. These are survival skills that we mastered in order to stay safe at the moment of trauma. We weren't born this way. It's not our nature. It is.
I wasn't suggesting. I definitely was not.
I understand this. I was talking about something that Josette said when she said they're built in. And so I'm because of the work we do with the other than conscious mind, all of our work is done in a state of relaxation. That actually not all, but we'll say 90% of the work we do with our clients is done in a state of relaxation in the alpha brain waves, the slower brain waves. And so we are very, very mindful of the language that we use. And so when I hear the language that says that this is something that is their nature and hard to change, I'm going, in my world, that's not the language. And so that's why I said something.
So would that be, so the language really would be more appropriately placed as a habit. Is that correct?
It's
Or
a
would you go-
survival skill that they learned in the moment to keep them safe, that then can become a habit if they are re-triggered, and then it becomes a habitual behavior.
So if
It doesn't
it's
start out
something-
as a habit. It starts out as a one-time event to stay safe in the moment.
And if you're continually exposed to something like that, and
Right. Then it becomes a habit, and people label themselves and they say things about themselves based on these habits and the meaning. It's really the meaning they've assigned to these habits.
Mhm.
Because one person can have this behavior and they don't assign any limiting meaning to it. Yeah, I have a friend who, she says, I do not have an inside voice. She is loud all the time. The meaning she's assigned to that is, that's okay. I don't have an inside voice. If you don't like it, you don't have to be around me. She has no shame around it in her language. She also has no desire to change it, but that's a whole nother story. It's why we don't talk very often. So the power of understanding that what we are living is based on the meanings that we decided at a time we don't even remember, and giving people back the power to choose a new meaning, whether it's done in conversation or my preference, which is that the meaning gets created out of the resolution of trauma in a session that where they're already relaxed and cool. However someone does it, giving yourself back the power to choose what something means. And my favorite example is coming home at the end of the day and dirty dishes in the sink. And he doesn't love me and he's so lazy. And all of these labels and expressions come out of my mouth. And one day I woke up and realized that dirty dishes in the sink mean that there are dirty dishes in the sink. And they no longer have any power over me. They used to. Once I understood that they had no power, that I didn't give them, that the only reason I'm having an emotional reaction is because of a decision I made at a time I don't even remember, I can have a power to make a new decision today. And that whole thing of pulling back choice is the premise behind the books that we write, because we write the Make It a Great Day, The Choice is Yours series of books.
So having a practice or something that, I mean, I know that you have techniques that you adhere to. And so if someone listening to this, says, well, how can I help myself? Is it helpful to practice something like looking around the room and saying that lamp has no meaning to me? This floor has
I have one that's more fun than that. I think that would actually work. And there's one that's more fun than that. It's called active gratitude. Mm-hmm. If you look around your environment and the first thing that your eyes land on that makes you smile, that you have a pleasant thought or a pleasant feeling around, you pause. And instead of being thankful to whoever gave it to you, pause and give yourself appreciation. Give active gratitude to yourself first, because the only reason that item is in your home is because of an action you took, a decision you made. Even if it was a gift from someone else, it was your ability to act and choose and make decisions that kept that person in your life where they wanted to give you the gift. So when you can actively give yourself the gratitude first, then you've changed all of the biochemistry in the brain. So even if something would normally trigger you, it's not going to have the same effect as it would if you were not filling your bloodstream with the feel-good chemicals that come from gratitude. They've proven that your body responds to gratitude and success with the same biochemical response. So, hey, flood your bloodstream with success chemicals with gratitude. And do it for yourself first, and then that will spread naturally into the world.
Well, I love using gratitude practices. I think it's a practice of mastery. And there are different ways you can apply that gratitude. And I love what you just stated, which leads me to think about how your thoughts affect things. So Do either of you, Sue, can you kind of enlighten us a little bit of what your philosophy is around how you think and using the power of positivity
Well,
to
yes,
help
I can.
change some of those things?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And it comes back to what Jackie was saying, which is what you think creates, it works, the brain chemistry of it is very simple. You think a thought, your amygdala picks it up as, is this a safe thought? Is this a good thought? Is this a painful thought? Is this a happy thought? Is this a really happy thought? And when your amygdala picks that up, it triggers a response into the hippocampus. And the hippocampus then basically chooses the chemistry that's going to go to your body. Is it going to be dopamine, which is that feel-good drug that Jackie's talking about? Is it going to be adrenaline or adrenaline cortisol mix? How much is it going to be? And then once that's triggered by a thought that your amygdala picked up on, it actually goes down into your brainstem and floods your whole nervous system with that chemistry, right out to your nerve endings, right out to those little teeny ones in the bottom of your fingers. Your whole body begins to feel that reaction. So the gratitude practice, the feel-good practice, the mirror work, when you look in the mirror and say, I am really good today. I feel amazing today. I love myself today. That's as simple as triggering dopamine. And sometimes you have to fake it a little while to make it. So you might say that for 10 months. I was talking to somebody. She says, I said that to myself every morning for 10 months. And then in the 11th month, I actually began to believe it. Mm. And she felt amazing. She felt that flood of the feel-good drugs. So you're asking, do thoughts trigger body responses and lead us to trauma or out of trauma? Absolutely, yes, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Sue. How about you, Jackie?
I believe that results only come from actions. Actions only come from emotions, and emotions only come from our thoughts. Sue gave a very clear understanding of how that occurs. It's a biochemical relationship. Emotions are a biochemical. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the right word. The bottom line is, it's not what you're thinking. It's not how you're feeling. It's how your body responds to what you're thinking that's creating how you're feeling. And I believe that your thoughts come from only one place, that your thoughts only come from your beliefs, from your BS, from your belief system, from those meanings that we assigned earlier. And once I started playing in that arena, how do you change a belief? That's how some of the workshops that I do on confidence come about, because the confidence in the outcomes that they can deliver is the biggest challenge that coaches and healers come into my training with. They know they've got great skills. They've got clients that have had great results, but those great results don't get through their filter, their reticular activating system, to actually be able to inform a belief, because our reticular activating system screens out almost 100%, and I say almost 100% of our stimuli, because it has to. Otherwise, we'd go insane. We're exposed to billions of bits of information every single minute, and we can only handle in our conscious brain about 40. So the reticular activating system screens out everything based on our beliefs. It allows in what we most closely aligned with what we already believe. And so if I believe that I'm not good enough, then the memories, the things that I'm going to be paying attention to are going to match that belief, because that's what my reticular activating system is set to. And figuring out how to quickly and easily retrain the reticular activating system so that the memories of the successes, the memories of the things you've achieved, can actually start informing and creating a new belief, is got to be the most fun thing in the world. We actually call it the elephant walk. And we walk the subconscious mind, which is, of course, that's the elephant and the ant. Conscious mind is only this little ant on top, because it's only getting 40 bits of information out of all of this input that it could be getting. So rather than eat an elephant, we just tame it. We just take it for a walk. And the subconscious mind comes into alignment. And it's just the most fun. And it's informing the brain that, yes, I've got this. I do know how to have control over my thoughts. I do know how to have control over my emotions. Oh, look at how easy that was. It's a simple 4-step process. And I'm happy to share it if there's time, but absolutely, you've hit it on the head. This is how change happens quickly.
Great. Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much. And yes, if we have time, I'd love to hear your 4 steps. So the other question that I have for you, and I really wanted to get to this because I think it's going to be really helpful for our audience out there, that the world we live in can be pretty trauma inducing if you watch the news, if you just going to the grocery store, et cetera, et cetera. I went to a movie and saw Avatar in 4D. First time I ever went, didn't really know what I got myself into. And the seat was like moving around and water spraying and air poofing out on the sides of the chair. And I felt so, my nervous system was just jostled throughout the whole time I saw the movie. So even experiences like that, how do people maneuver through the world and stay somewhat centered and more regulated rather than or deregulated, excuse me, did I say that correctly? And so that they can actually function without, being set off consistently.
I'm going to assume that Sue has a lot of practices that help with that. And, rule number 1, it's like investing money with a financial advisor. The first thing they're going to want to know about you is your risk tolerance. And then they will match the investments to your risk tolerance for losing your money. I think it's time that we start matching our activities to our risk tolerance for losing our shit. Pardon my language. But I mean, this is what was happening. One of my daughters is a horror flick fan. Her favorite favorite thing in the world is to go to Hollow Scream at an amusement park and get the stuffing scared out of her. Me, I still traumatized from watching Jaws when I was in high school. So no, thank you. I am on a no drama diet. I don't go anywhere near those kinds of things. So I'm on the no drama diet. She's on the high drama diet. The good news is we can laugh at each other because she'll say, oh, I saw this great movie. And I'm like, not going.
Yeah, I won't be going back to another 4D.
No.
The first experience of 4D is actually in Disney World. And it had this thing where all of a sudden these things like rats were supposed to be running through the theater and these things were flicking around my ankles. And I'm like, that cured me too. First experience was
I
enough.
would never do that. Nope, not for me.
Yeah. A no drama diet. No, thank you.
No, I am very traumatized, triggered. I'm not going to say traumatized because I know the words are important to you, Jackie. I am very triggered by any kind of visual violence, auditory violence, when the music gets really repetitive and it gets really loud and it's basically going right through my core. It's like, I've got to get out of here. I can't do this. So for me, I'm Bambi. I'm not when Bambi gets squished, but I'm definitely Bambi. Take me somewhere gentle and soft and I'll be a very happy person. Put me into some place where there's a lot of bright flickering lights, really loud, repetitive noises. And that sense of doom. So it has to do a lot with the beat. So basically it's somatic, it's body sensation. For me, triggers comes through the senses, and I feel them in my gut. I feel them in my abdomen, in my solar plexus, in my heart, in my lungs. I'll feel them on my skin to the point where I'm so antsy, I'm jumping out of my skin. But then again, I know the simple somatic tools, the breathing techniques, the touching techniques, the tapping techniques that will bring me back into regulation and co-regulate me with my environment. So like Jackie said, I'm not going to go to any horror fest anytime soon. I'm certainly not going to go to a 4D movie. Thank you. You just cured me of the whole idea of going to see Avatar 4D, which is what my grandson wanted to do with me. He went with his mom. He loved it. He's 12. And he can do that. Mom didn't enjoy it too much, but he loved it. So we're talking about different personalities within the same families. And that's really important too. And I'd like to bring that back to the conversation, is that within one family of people, you can have people who are triggered by different things, and learning the risk. I love that word you use, Jackie, risk tolerance of the people that we live with. We can begin to not people please, but we can begin to create an environment that speaks to each one of their risk tolerances. So we're compassionate, non-judgmental. We recognize that these triggers are part of where they have been, and may be able to be I hate the word
they want to
retrained.
change. Yeah.
Yeah, if they want to change, yeah.
Then they can, it's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
If they are fine the way they are, which most people are, they have no desire to fix anything. They don't see that they're broken.
Right.
Then it is about learning the power of acceptance, accepting exactly who they are, how they are, and then deciding, is the way they are something that I am willing to be engaged with? And you can only get to that place of choice if you go to first totally accepting without conflict, without trying to change someone. And it is a practice.
Yeah.
And it's actually easier to learn how to totally accept someone else without conflict than it was for me to learn how to totally accept myself without conflict, because I was really good at shoulding on myself, thinking I should be different than I am. I should not have said that. I should get more sleep, whatever it was. And once I learned how to get myself out of shouldville, now I can come into the world totally accepting myself, which is a really good thing, as I'm about to be in a fishbowl with what's coming for the Teen Suicide Prevention Society. So thank God it's this year and not a few years ago.
And wouldn't you say that part of that acceptance is also self-forgiveness?
I think that forgiveness requires me to believe that I did something wrong in the first place. And I believe that everything I did was the best idea at the time based on who I was and the information I had. So I don't need to forgive. I need to celebrate. And so I have leaving shouldville.
So
starts with.
Can I ask you this question? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Go ahead.
Make sure that I ask this. If the act of acceptance, it doesn't have any portion of forgiveness because there's no belief.
It also doesn't have any approval in it. Acceptance is a neutral state. When we talk about non-judgment, which is what Sue was saying, acceptance without conflict of who people are and how they behave does not mean I approve. But it means that my brain is not hijacked by my amygdala because I'm not judging it as wrong. And when I judge it as wrong, that's when the emotions start kicking up and I don't think as clearly, I don't stay as calm. So if I say, go ahead.
And my question then is, it's leading me to think a few things. Is it then the operation of only being specific about the words that you're using and focused on the action and leaving the emotion out? Where does emotion come into this? And how is the acceptance, if you're not applying any kind of story around it, like it's not wrong, I did nothing wrong, etc., then what is the resistance of acceptance?
We're taught not to. We're taught to believe that we made mistakes. We're taught the language of our culture. I lost time. I wasted money. This is the language of our culture, which is artificially embedding the idea that we've done something wrong. As opposed to the simple trick, again, it's about quick reframes. Every penny I've ever spent was well spent, even if I would not choose to spend a penny that way today. Now I've reclaimed my power to choose my future actions, and I'm no longer hijacked by repeating the past because I don't have any emotional energy around it. So that's the first path out of Shouldville. There are 4. And that simple act of saying every penny I've ever spent was well spent, even if I would not choose to spend a penny that way today, gives the brain this break from the old story, which was, I wasted money. Mm-hmm. No, not possible. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. You cannot waste money. You can only spend it, and you can choose how you feel about how you spent it.
So it's staying factual and not allowing belief or other projected.
Well, it's staying factual and accepting the fact that I've got these sold stories. It's accepting the fact that this is how I used to believe. And immediately when I understand this is how I used to believe in this present moment, I can make a different choice about what I believe.
Okay.
It's about making that clear, time delineated distinction between that's what I was thinking even a second ago. I used to think that. Now I've decided this.
Okay.
And it can be that fast and that simple, but that's what leads into the elephant walk, which is a practice that makes it habitual. Because it takes repetition sometimes to create a new habit. Depends on how long you've had the old one.
So it's really just making choices about how you perceive something.
And the first key is to be aware that you have a choice. Trauma, once triggered, removes our ability to consciously choose. And that's why it's so devastating. We fall back into the survival skills that kept us alive at the time of the trauma. And that's why this is so much fun for me, because the recovery now can be so fast and so fun. It does not take a lot of time. It doesn't have to take a lot of digging. And then you can start wrapping around with the sensory shifts, the ability to choose. The first thing is, though, to accept the fact that you will be re-triggered unless you resolve the trigger. And so that's why we do root trauma work and absolutely resolve the trigger without needing to talk about it. Because once a trigger is resolved, it dials down the heat of every other trigger in the whole system. It's amazing. But I didn't know that that's what was going to happen. I just knew that I had had 2 bouts of clinical depression and Western medicine could not cure me. And so I went hunting for a cure, not to change the world. All I wanted to do was to get some sense of control and safety over my own world.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I want to give Sue an opportunity here really quick, and then I'd like you both to be able to end with, any information you'd like to share with the audience. So Sue, would you go ahead and did you want to respond to what we were just speaking of?
I'd like you to basically ask the question again. There was so much information that Jackie, you totally mesmerized me. I'm like, wow. So if you wouldn't mind just asking that question again so that I can focus my thoughts around that.
So the original question was, because we're in such an active world where there's a lot of trauma-inducing activities happening around us, how can people stay regulated in their everyday life? Like, what are the best ways of being able to do that?
I think the very first thing that people could do, and again, it's a choice, is observe what's going on around them. Just without putting any meaning to it, observe it and allow yourself to observe it from a compassionate and non-judgmental place. One of the things that I've discovered over the years is that most people who broadcast huge need that affect and trigger highly sensitive people, those triggering people basically are sending out thoughts. They're sending out thought waves. They're sending out vibrations of who they are, sometimes without even saying any words at all. It's body sense. And recognizing that those people don't need you to fix them or to change your behavior in any way. You just need to witness them. Just recognize that they are in a state, perhaps in a pain state, perhaps in a needy state, perhaps in a controlling state. Witness them non-judgmentally. So you're witnessing them with compassion. I see that you are a very broken person. I'm not buying into it, but I can see that that's where you are. And that validates where they are, especially if it's done very non-judgmentally. And you don't have to say a word to do that. Basically, it's your physical response to them. Their energy is meeting your energy somewhere out here, and triggering each other. So when you can sense that I'm just observing you without judgment and compassion, you're validating their need to be witnessed. So that's the first piece. The second piece is that if they are triggering you, as Jackie said, there are these little processes that you can do to dial back. Sometimes it's breathing, sometimes it's tapping, sometimes it's touching, sometimes it's self-talk. This is not my belief that you might have been used to be my belief, but it's not my belief right now. So if it's not my belief, I don't have to go there. I'm going to go to this new place where I'm more in control of what's going to happen in my body next. So it's dialing back an old reaction, and you can dial it back right to 0 if you choose to, or if you want to stay a little bit aware of it so that you're aware of your surroundings a little bit more. You're not living in this happy bubble all the time. So you've got your survival hat is on. I'm still looking around me. I get it that there's stuff going on out there, but I don't have to be triggered by it. So that's a big deal. That's a big part of it. Learning those tiny little body sense exercises. Yeah. Like Jackie says, they're so fast. And oh my God, you do the happy dance with your client. And if it's virtual, they're happy dancing in their place. I'm happy dancing around my place. And the energy is, it's a win-win. So when we have win-wins, that dials up the dopamine. Our survival instinct goes, oh yeah, that's survival. And I'm surviving really well right now. So those triggers get dialed back. And again, the next time you're triggered by it, it's like, oh, I had a really good, I can do this. And so your belief in your system, in yourself begins to change. As Jackie said, it's all about your self-belief. And when you're able to come to that place where you're able to dial back on an old belief and replace it successfully, consistently with a new belief, your survival brain, your amygdala believes it. And then that body chemistry begins to be more consistent. And when your body chemistry is consistent, that's another way of reinforcing your belief system because you feel good with your choices. As far as trauma triggers are concerned, I think that if we can give ourselves permission to observe first, come up with processes with the help of good practitioners that will help you to dial back on those old reactions, to change your belief system so that you've got that feel-good chemistry flooding your body more often than the feel-bad chemistry. We become more present in our lives. We become more present with the people that mean something to us. We become more present in our jobs. So we begin to be seen by the outside world as being people that they can trust not to spin them out. So we become more valuable and more acceptable without being people-pleasing. We're pleasing ourselves first. So, I mean, I could go on forever and ever. And of course, there are programs that work step by step. There are processes that I know step by step that I give all my clients. And at this point, it's something that has been successfully proving itself for a very long time. It's a very gentle process. It's a very joyful process. And even though a client may bring a lot less than joy into the beginning of our session, they are definitely joyful and happy. And it's, oh my God, I can't believe we did this in just this many minutes in our time together. That makes that totally floats my boat, makes me happy, makes me want to keep coming back to work with difficult people, getting them to the place where they are excited and joyful and walking that elephant, like Jackie said. I don't have an elephant, but Jackie does. And it sounds like it's a really good elephant. So I think that there are some amazing practitioners out there that speak to specific needs for specific people. And finding the practitioner that works for you and your energy levels and your belief systems, even if your belief systems are totally in the toilet. Those things, with a little bit of help, can be reframed and become a new part of who you are. And I love the process. I get so excited by the process that I think I'm actually addicted to it. I can't say more than that.
So is there anything that you would like to end with, or that you have coming up you'd like the audience to know?
Actually, yes, I'm doing a program called Calm the Overwhelm, and it is a group program as opposed to a one-on-one. I love the one-on-one, but there's so many healers and caregivers and light workers and all those people who are Reiki, even Reiki masters. I work with so many Reiki masters because of trauma that's been embedded in them, and they've done their best. So, I mean, it's basically the healers and the caregivers and the people, the social workers, the people who touch people. It's called Calm the Overwhelm. It will be released, if not this weekend, then by the beginning of next week. And people will be able to join it as a group program. It's going to be a 9-week program, and it'll be reasonably affordable, but it's not going to be cheap, but it will be definitely valuable. And if people want more about that, I'll be able to provide a link probably in Sacred You, because the link isn't ready to put onto this replay yet. I'm so sorry, but it's not ready yet. It will be.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you
So
so
there's
much.
that. And there's also one-on-one. I also give a free discovery session. It's anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. It's called Life Blueprint Next Steps. And if you go to my website, it'll be in the links. And just go to contact and just say you're interested in the Life Blueprint, and then I'll get back to you with a date where we can set up the first steps.
And for the audience, both Sue and Jackie's links are going to be in the replay and will be below. So no worries, you'll be able to reach both of them as well. And Jackie, I'd like to give you the same opportunity. Would you please go ahead and share with us anything that you have coming up?
Well, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And Sue, I'm like going, oh, do I have time to put a 9-week course into my schedule? So we'll have to talk. Highly sensitive people are not my ideal clients. Highly sensitive people are yours. And that's why this is a perfect pairing. Yeah. I love the way the universe lined us up on this panel.
Me too.
Mine are more the people who are out there trying to make a difference in the world. They know this is their calling. They know this is how they want to have meaning in their life. And they just don't seem to be able to master the business side of it, the marketing side of it. And what I've come to realize is that confidence is the key to being successful in a crowded marketplace. And right now, coaching and healing has become a very crowded space, not always easy to stand out. So all of the people who are certified in my methodology have their own specialty. So they are all highlighted on my website. So I'm going to drop the website for Success Journey Academy in the chat, and you all will have the links. There's also an upcoming Unlimited Confidence Live. It's right, this version, because I use the same link for whatever I'm doing so that people can always find out what's coming next. This is a 90-minute hands-on workshop called The Confidence Advantage, and it is the 4 keys to confidence. So anyone can come in, master the 4 keys in this 90-minute and be empowered to go make different choices, even if they've been behaving the same way for a long time. It's actually a habit-changing environment. So those are 2 things that are available right now. And there's some early bird pricing, so people might want to jump on that. And that's my hallmark. Every time I launch a course, the first few weeks of me talking about it, it's at early bird pricing. So my clients have already been trained. If I'm doing something new, they grab it right away because they know it won't be at that price again.
TikTok.
So, yeah, well, and it's just, once I've taught it 3 times, the content is so solid that then I will record it and it will become evergreen. And then they can buy the recorded version. Otherwise, I teach everything live. It's all on Zoom. It's all live. It's all interactive. And that's just what I'm known for. That's where I shine. and recognizing that that's my skill set was a long time coming.
Beautiful.
Now,
Thank
my
you so
other thing, my other request, my big ask,
much.
vote for the Teen Suicide Prevention Society to go from being nominated to being a contestant. We've been nominated for a reality TV show, a brand new one, and the event that they're going to announce the TV show is happening March 4th. And then they will be in accepting applications for contestants. I didn't have to wait. They actually tagged me and asked me if they could nominate me to be a contestant. And now I want to prove that they made a good choice. And that's going to be by people going to the website, downloading the talk that saves lives, because that will prove that people care about the topic. They care about ending teen suicide. We're working to end all suicide. And if you download the guide, then they know you're interested in how we do it. And we're pure prevention. This is a talk you have before you think they need it, not when you're worried and there are signs. We think waiting for signs is looking for trouble. So you have the talk before you think they need it, just like you have to talk about sex before they're pregnant, I hope. So that's what this is for. And I hope that people will share this out into the world so that we have a chance to be a contestant on this reality TV show and change the world in a bigger way.
Jackie, thank you. That's a really important topic, and we appreciate you informing us about it. And the information that Jackie was just speaking of is in our chat. You can save the chat if you're here live with us. And we'll do our very best to get all of these links into the replay as well. So I'd like to really thank both of you so much for being here. It was an exciting and very informative panel discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'd like to just give a little shout out for our sacred community, where everyone is seeking connection, connecting to yourself, connecting to other heart-centered people, and connecting to your purpose. We are passionate about creating opportunities for you to make new friends, share your passion, empower yourself, and help empower others. At the core of our community are people who want to make a difference in their own lives and the lives of others everywhere. So if you like what you heard tonight on the panel and you're interested in doing some work with our sacred community, our beautiful Sue is one of our hosts. And Sue, would you please tell us about your tribe really for us? She has a beautiful tribe.
I have a beautiful tribe. It's called Life Force Activators. And it's for those people who may not yet be totally excited by their lives. But they want to grab onto life with both hands to find the best direction for themselves and to get that vitality going in their core so that it just broadcasts out and people can see them as authentic, safe, trusted people and invite them into their lives. So Life Force Activators meets every 2 weeks on Tuesdays at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. And you can translate that into any time zone you like. It works for most of them except the GMTs. And we just have exciting, fulfilling conversations. And it starts with a topic, but then we make it interactive. Everybody has an opinion. We talk for about an hour and people find answers. And they come away feeling topped up. They come away feeling that they're connecting with the tapestry of their own lives. And now they can spin that out. So Life Force Activators. And you can find us in the tribes on Sacred You.
It's a beautiful, beautiful tribe. And you can tell that Sue is full of all kinds of wonderful information that can really guide and help you. And she's just one beautiful example that we have in our sacred community. And if this interests you and sparks some joy in your beingness, then we invite you to come and join for the first 21 days for only $1. So come give us a try, take a look around and find the things that interest you so that you can make connection and have more community. So thank you everyone for being here. I'm very honored to have had this panel with you, and we appreciate all of you who have watched. Thank you very much.